Do you want a financially secure future, not just for yourself, but for your loved ones as well? This is Generations of Wealth, the podcast that breaks down the most effective wealth building strategies you can easily apply to your own life. Join investor and international best-selling author Derrick Dombeck in exploring practical tips and sound advice on building a profitable business, creating a powerful brand, or getting into the thriving world of real estate investing. This is your chance to create your very own financial roadmap to live your vision, love your life. Let's begin this discussion with your host, Derrick Dombeck.
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm Derrick Dombeck, your host. This is the show where we talk about building wealth so that you can live your vision and love your life. Today, I've got a special guest, Eric Martel. I'm going to let Eric do his own bio because, quite honestly, it'll come a lot better from him. But Eric, I was on your podcast, the Stop Trading Your Time for Money podcast last year, and we had a great time. So if you wouldn't mind, just give us all a little background on you, and we'll just dive right into it.
Yeah, so my story is I bought my first real estate apartment building, an 8-unit apartment building when I was 18 years old. And I was still at university. I had no money, but I had a mentor. And this was kind of what I refer to as my rich dad, poor dad moment, where I had met someone that was a real estate investor, and he mentored me into buying my first real estate property. Eventually, I tried to invest in real estate in all the different places where I lived, graduated from university to get more money so that it would make real estate investing easier. And turns out that, as I worked as an actuary and later on in high tech, then I had tons of money in stock options, more money than I could dream of at the time. And then I landed in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I had lots of money. Was not an issue, and it was about finding a property, and that would make sense, where the numbers would actually make sense. And none of the properties in San Francisco Bay Area with cash flow. The only way to cash flow would be to put a ton of cash in and increase the down payment and reduce the mortgage. But then your cash on cash return was like 1% or 2%. So I said, well, that doesn't make sense. So, and then the dot-com crash happened, so that all these millions of dollars that I had in stock options kind of evaporated. So then I went back to the drawing board, and I said, okay, well, I have to be in control of my investment. And I want to be more passive than before. So I don't mind spending some time to get a business going, but eventually I wanted to be passive within like 5 years or so. And then I wanted to be able to, passive income, being able to generate income anywhere in the world so that I can travel, live my life, and leave a legacy for my children. So we did a bunch of different businesses. And eventually we came back to real estate. But out-of-state real estate, out-of-state single-family rentals. That's what we landed with, and that was extremely successful. So successful that I sold my house in the San Francisco Bay Area and took all the equity that I had and invested it in real estate, and never looked back since then. That was the best decision I've ever made, beside moving to Fort Lauderdale. So that was... So to save taxes from California.
Yeah, I don't think we want to spend the whole show talking about California taxes, but we probably could.
Yeah.
So
and so as we so that investment turned into Martel Turnkey. We had some people that initially it was just us doing the portfolio. Eventually that turned into Martel Turnkey, where we're selling these properties to investors. And eventually these same investors that were with us at the beginning that started buying turnkey, now they're saying, hey, can you teach us how to buy the distressed property, renovate it, rent it out? And this is where Flip System was launched last year, which is exactly what we're doing.
Okay. So let's go back a little bit to the beginning. you said you landed on single family houses, but how do you know what the best investment vehicle is to get the passive income that you want? What was your journey with that?
So, I mean, I'm very mathematically inclined, so I'm always looking at my return on investment, my annualized return, so to make a decision.
Mhm.
So that eliminates obviously things that have negative cash flow. That eliminates things that, when I'm looking at two different properties, I'm looking for a property that is like an apartment building that's has a cap rate of like 6 or 8, and I'm comparing that with a single family rental that has an 8 or 10. While I would tend to gravitate towards the single family rental space, and that's basically what happened. On top of that, in the multifamily space right now, I think that demographically, the millennials are going to start kind of like what they call the family formation years. So they're going to say, well, they're going to move in with their girlfriend, boyfriend, partners, and start a family. So that means they're going to move out of their parental house, but that also means that they're going to move out of their apartment buildings potentially, and then move into a single family rentals because they're chasing the American dream, the house, the cars, the driveway, the picket fence, the 2 dogs, and the 2 kids. And so that's kind of like what's ingrained in everybody's mind is to live in single family rental. A lot of them have lived have their kids run in the backyard. They want the same experience for their children. And we're seeing a big demand for single family rental.
Well, and I live in the Midwest in Wisconsin, so we can still buy cash flow here.
Yeah.
How do you go about picking your markets? How does somebody listening to this show even begin picking a market to start looking at single family?
Yep. Exactly, and that's exactly what we had to do. And we said, so when Zillow came on board, and we had data from all over the U.S., this is really the only time where we were able to figure out which market we could go after, and that's exactly where we landed. We landed in the Midwest as well, in Memphis, Cleveland, St. Louis, Detroit, yeah, a bunch of other states and cities in Ohio as well. And how we came about these states is the first criteria was landlord-friendly states. So we wanted to be able to not be a bad landlord, but if a tenant is not paying, I want to be able to evict them so that I can, find a tenant that will pay the rent. So that was one thing. We wanted to have some business diversification. We didn't want to be have the city where we invest to be kind of like a monolith of just one industry. And then if that industry fails, then all of a sudden everything crumbles. We wanted to have something that was a little bit more stable. Kind of scared of, we went through like, San Francisco Bay Area, kind of like the boom of that. And now it's coming down since the interest rate went up. But same thing with Austin too, like we had these big booms, like tons of influx. So we stay away from cities where they have these big up and down in terms of people moving in or people moving out. So we want something that's very stable, very boring, I would say, like 1% growth or less. And that gives a chance for the market to adapt. So, if you have like 10,000 people moving into the city, I mean, it's easy for the city to absorb it. And then that way you don't have these spikes in prices and all that kind of stuff. So these are the main criteria that we used at the kind of macro level, I would say. And then after that, it was really working with the team on the ground to identify the neighborhoods that made sense for us to invest. And typically it would be like the B and C class neighborhood, work class neighborhood.
So you keep saying we. What does the team look like?
So the team looks like, so we have an acquisitions team. We have also the person that's managing the whole process, the whole renovations and all of that. And then at the back end, we have the salesperson that basically we market it, we put it on our website, and then that property is, when someone is interested, then it comes and call our salesperson, and then we go through the transaction.
And I'll just speak for myself. As I was coming up through the mid 2000s and the markets crashed and I got destroyed, I really became probably worse than ever, where I wanted to have my fingers on everything. I didn't want employees. I didn't want to trust anybody because the people I did trust let me down. How do you vet the
Yeah.
people that you're gonna, put your faith in because it's not in your backyard?
Mm.
And I think that keeps a lot of people, especially newer in the business, right? They stall out because they can't find decent deals in their home city, but they're scared to death of
Mm.
going somewhere else. And
Yeah.
and I understand that that can be where, Martel Turnkey is there to work with that person and walk them through it. But how did you get over that hump, or was that never an issue for you?
Well, no, it's always an issue. You always have to, but when you get started, building the team on the ground is absolutely critical. So with Martel Turnkey, we did that, and when a lot of our investors on Martel Turnkey, they were asking us to help them also do their own flips. Um, we did some online training, we did some coaching, and we basically told them, well, this is what you have to do. You have to call like 200 realtors and property managers in the state, in the city that you want to invest in. Then you talk to them, you vet them, and then you get started. And even that was, it was difficult for people to do that. And that's why we launched Flip System. We're Flip System, we're sharing our partners on the ground, the people that we've been working with and that we are vetting, through our process. And then we are just like staying on top of them and making sure that they're doing what's best for our Flip System customers. And the key here is that you start slow. I mean, you go and you say, okay, but you sound good. You're in alignment in terms of your interests and theirs. This is something that's very important. So that if you're winning, if you're doing a great job and making a lot of money, then you want them to also be making good money so that, everybody's aligned, everybody's is working together towards the same goal. Now, people are people. There's going to be some people that are going to be a little bit greedier, and then you have to cut them off and say, okay, well, I'm going to deal with somebody else. But you have to maintain your alignment throughout all the projects that you're doing.
The old saying, hire slow and fire fast,
Yes,
definitely comes into play.
yes, yeah.
Um,
And it's
so
amazing sometimes how short-sighted some contractors are. We see that more on the contractor side, but some of the contractors that we've worked with, I mean, once they started working with us, they didn't have to look for a job anymore. Like they had multiple projects, they could ramp up their business, they could hire more people, they didn't have to do any marketing, they didn't have any downtime. So there's an advantage to work with us.
Yeah, and I've seen that in my own business over the years. I've had incredible relationships with contractors. I worked for a contractor for a long, long, long time. That's how I got my start to begin with. And when things get really busy and they have all the work they can possibly take on, and they start price gouging, not that that's a problem. Like, I'm a capitalist, they have a right
Yeah.
to charge what they're worth and they can get it. But it's amazing now, as work is starting to slow down a little bit, they're all kind of starting to trickle back in and call, say, hey, do you have any work for us?
Mhm.
Well, where were you when I needed you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you wouldn't even return my call. And
Yeah.
now you want to come back. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. And
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
essentially what you're saying. They absolutely could have that consistent work. Maybe they're not getting top dollar, but they're not having the peaks and valleys of their workload either.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're right. People are very short-sighted.
Some of them, I
So
mean, it's not the majority, obviously. I mean, other people, they see this as a great relationship. They said, you mean I can just swing the hammer all day? I don't have to go and look for a customer. You're just gonna give me job after job after job. Yeah, sign me up.
right, absolutely. So how long has Martel Turnkey been going?
So Martel Turnkey is about just under 10 years.
Okay.
About.
So what happened when COVID hit? How did that affect?
So when COVID hit, actually there was a pause. So that was kind of interesting. In February, March, there was basically everybody was kind of like, okay, holding their breath. And then, okay, like what's going on here? Like, is everything gonna crash? Is everything gonna collapse? All that kind of stuff. And so there was that pause. And then basically in April, the sales started going again. This is like, okay, well, this is like, it's a disease. And then, we're doing something about it. And, so people started buying properties again.
See, for us, at that time, I was running a hard money lending company with a business partner, and since then he's bought me out. But it was really interesting. About April 1st, all of the hedge funds stopped buying the national hard money lenders paper, their
Mm-hmm.
notes,
Oh, yeah.
and we had 400% increase in applications for loans. We couldn't fund anywhere close to that, and we didn't have the backing to do it. But
Yeah.
we could cherry pick the best deals, which was I mean, 2020 was a phenomenal year for those that were positioned properly.
Yeah.
So that brings up another question. What do you advise people to do if they want to kind of mimic, a turnkey business like yours? Are you using bank financing? Are you advising them to raise private capital, creative deal structures? How are you actually building out the purchase of these single families?
For us, it was really private money lending and joint venture. And we were basically deciding which way we were going, depending on how risky we thought the economic environment was. So if the economic environment was great, we were making great returns and all that, then we said, okay, well, let's go to PML, because that way I don't have to share in a 50% of the profit. I can just pay the interest for 4 or 5 months, and then I move them to another project. Sometimes there's other environments like the pandemic, like you mentioned. We didn't know exactly what would happen. So now all the new money that was coming in, we basically have them do a joint venture agreement instead, and then we share the profit, because we didn't know if all our assumption was the project would last like 6 months, like from close to close.
Yep.
And with the pandemic, we didn't know if it would be 6 months or if it would be like a year or a year and a half, whatever. So we wanted to make sure that we had the flexibility to do that and that we would kind of maintain the margin. So it's just spreading the risk. And that's how we kind of went back and forth. We never had to deal with hard money lending. So we were lucky enough to be able to have the investors to do that on our own.
Well, the reason I love that answer is because I don't use banks. I haven't used a bank in over 10 years for an investment property, probably close to 12 years. And a lot of that was out of necessity because when the markets crashed, I was no longer bankable.
Yeah.
And so we found a new way. And I will openly admit I've not been able to do some deals without wanting to go to a bank, but I like dealing with people instead of institutions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And when you have something like COVID or some other black swan event, it's really interesting how the banks aren't willing to talk to you as openly as a mom and pop or an investor that you're in a joint venture with. You can have a multiple exit strategies and ride it out. So it's a refreshing conversation with you, that because most people, especially in the low interest rates that we had for the last few years, they all got addicted to the bank financing, and now they're panicking because they don't have alternative methods. They don't have private investors. What do you feel is going to happen? Just two questions. In the multifamily space, we've got a lot of bridge loans and 5-year to 7-year type products that are going to be coming due. And then second part of the question with single family, fixed rate financing, how do you see that playing out in the next 12 months?
So I know a lot of people expect the interest rate to go down in this year. I expect it to kind of go sideways, maybe going down a little bit, but I certainly don't expect that it is going to go down to 4 and 3% range. There's no way this is going to happen. So I think this is going to be one of the reasons is that the average, if you look at the average for the last like 50 years, the average interest rate is like 7.75. So we're right there. We're right in that zone right now. So I think it's going to just go sideways, may go down a little bit, may go up a little bit, but I think we're right there. I think it's just a question of the rest, especially in the rental space. You want the rent to adjust also to the new rate, and then you want to have all the mindsets to adjust to the new rate. There was a big shock when the interest rate in 2022 started shooting up. People were just like, they were in shock. It was, oh my God, I can't do anything with the interest rate is too high. I'm just gonna wait for it to come back down. It's not, it was artificially low for like at 2 and 3% for the longest time.
Yeah.
So it's, don't expect it to ever go back there. And if it does go back, it's because something is wrong. So yeah, that's kind of my feeling on that.
And I couldn't agree more. My conversations with people that have been in this business 5 years or less are completely different than my conversations with people that have been in 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
And I was happy to see interest rates go up.
Mhm.
I really was, and I still am. I agree with you. I think they're going to stay level. They may go up and down a half a point here and there.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll see below 5% interest rates in the next 10 years. There's no reason for it, to be honest.
Yeah, unless something goes wrong, like I said, like
Right. And even if they do that, it would be to try and pump up inflation for some other black swan event, or to, it would be short term. But we've got some great opportunities even in the last 3 to 6 months, where now people in both commercial and residential space are willing to talk alternative methods, are willing to talk terms. And I think it's Christmas for the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, in the commercial, that might be that's going to be interesting. Yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of people are in these term loans that are going to expiring, and they have to renew in the next 10 years. So these ones are going to be, if they can't get financing, I think that's going to be that could be a big problem. And we may have like some nice sales on the multifamily side. So
are you still actively raising money, or are you always raising money?
Not really, not at this time. Right now, my focus is really on the flip system right now. So we're really helping our customers on flip system to ramp up their own like turnkey business, their own real estate business. And then even at the end of that, so we connect them with everything. We give them the training, the acquisitions team. We connect them with our team on the ground, as I mentioned. We have the community, and we even allow them to list their property on Martel Turnkey if they follow the program and they're part of the program. So that way they have access to, we have like 15,000 investors on Martel Turnkey that are looking to build a passive income portfolio. So this is great for them. They have access to these 15,000 investors.
And that is great. And the reason I was asking if you were or not is because I'm always raising money. It's just part of my everyday life. And what I see with all of these apartment complexes that were syndicated, the banks are going to be fine, because the banks are only in a 70% loan to value. It's the syndication that raised 20, 30% down. There's going to be cash calls, or they're just going to get flat out wiped out. And from the aspect of the rest of us raising money, well, we're dealing with gun shy investors that got burnt. However, they still need somewhere to go for a good, safe return. And I'm seeing this already in the last year. A handful of the people that I've talked to and raised money from, they took big losses in 2022 and 2023, but they can't sit on the sidelines because inflation will just eat them up.
Exactly.
So it's interesting from a raising money standpoint. So people will be able to learn more about you and look at your flip system, and I know that you've got a book out there as well. And I'll have a link for everybody at thegenerationsofwealth.com/Eric Martel. So everything that we're talking about, you'll be able to go and check out. Talk a little bit about the book.
So the book is really explains everything that you need in order to do what I've been doing in real estate. So uh, I share all the secrets. Everything is in there. So we talk about mindset. I talk about skills that you need in order to get into the real estate business, and you don't need that many skills. You need to be organized. You need to be disciplined. You need to follow through. You need to communicate, and and you need to know a few numbers, how to add and divide and stuff like that, and multiply. But it's accessible to everybody. And then after that, it's about really talking a process of how to invest out of state. I looked at all kinds of different strategies, kind of at a high level, that are passive income generating. And in that, so I put them in a quadrant. I call that the investment quadrant. And you kind of want to go for the ones that are low risk and low effort, but profitable. And you end up in single family rentals. That's probably one of the best location to be, or turnkey rentals, something like that, if you have a lot of cash. And then basically walk them through the process of creating their own passive income portfolio, how to create a team on the ground, and all of that. So
So
all the secrets are in there.
you don't need to be a graduate in actuarial mathematics
Nope.
to do turnkey.
No, that's got me distracted. If I didn't have this actuarial math, I wouldn't have been distracted. I would have done more real estate, and I would have retired like 40 years ago. So
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I always like to ask anybody that I talk to is, generations of wealth is not just financial wealth. It's about, spiritual wealth, time wealth, and financial wealth. So what's your life been like? What have you been able to do because of the business you built and the way you built your business that really kind of leads you to live your vision and love your life?
I mean, for me, like I'm with my family, so I work with my family every day. So I have my wife that runs like Martel Turnkey. I'm working with my son and I on the flip system. My other son's also involved, and it's a family business. So we kind of we're together. So to me, that's my dream come true, is to be working with my family, having my family close to me. And we all moved here in Florida at the same time, and we were all in California. One of my son was in Memphis, and then moved here. So to me, that was one of my big thing. In terms of, I like the time flexibility, um, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, you're a multimillionaire. Like, why are you working so hard? I really like what I'm doing. Like I really enjoy building companies. Some people play the guitar. Some people, they have different hobbies. But for me, like something that I'm very passionate about is I like food, but I also like building businesses and helping other people. And this is one of the reasons why we launched Flip System, because there was a need out there, and we wanted to help these people. We had been talking to these people for 10 years, right? They were investors in Martel Turnkey. They were turnkey buyers and all that. So we've been in these conversations with them for a long time. So when we discovered that there was more than a need for the coaching and the acquisition and build that whole system. So that's why we decided to launch Flip System with my son.
And that's kind of a parallel to my journey, quite honestly, as you're telling your story, because I never had any desires to host masterminds and host a conference on a cruise ship and launch something like Generations of Wealth. But I had enough people over the years that kept telling me, and I'm assuming you had the same thing, that what I could talk to people about and teach people was special. And most of us, I would say, have that headspace of, it's just another day in the office, right?
Mhm.
What you do doesn't seem like it's over the top. What I do doesn't seem like it's over the top. But to many, many people from the outside looking in, they can't even fathom how you could operate this turnkey in states that are in the Midwest, and you're in Florida or California or wherever you are. Um, it's definitely all mindset. And now I'm honored to be able to just host this podcast, have great conversations with people like yourself. And I don't know, it just never was a part of anything. So I would say to anyone listening, literally you can do whatever you believe you can do. And Eric is a tribute to that as well. Eric, as far as you mentioned other businesses, you've dabbled or you've built other businesses. What would you say to people that are thinking about, starting a business, or they have an idea for a business?
So it really depends. I mean, for me, if you know the business inside and out, so if you truly know all the ins and out of a business that you're planning to launch, and you know it's going to be profitable, and you plan it all out, and you say this is going to be a killer, then I think you should go for it. A lot of the businesses that I started, I didn't know what they were. So we started a low carb grocery store. So we knew a little bit about low carb, and then we kind of like the Atkins diet and keto and all that kind of stuff. And so we launched that. I never did a grocery store. We had to figure out the whole thing, the POS and all that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun. We also did the gourmet sauce company. Never had to deal with this food manufacturing, distribution, in-store demos. Didn't know anything about any of that. I didn't even know what a co-packer was at that time. So it was a lot of fun. We did that for 5 years. And, if I had known, more about the business, maybe I wouldn't have started the business. I would have said, well, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to waste 10 years of my life and I'm not going to make any money, or, so it's kind of good and bad. I had a good time. My wife worked a lot on that business also. And we had a good time. It was fun. We learned a lot of things. I don't regret it at all, but it didn't make any money. So if you're trying to do, generate passive income, have more time on your hand, then that kind of business was not the right business for us. And that's why we shut it down after like operating for 5 years, because it was not giving us the passive income that we needed. We also had a trucking company at one point. We had like 5 of these 18-wheelers and boxes and stuff like that, all on the West Coast. And so that was a big tax deduction, let's just say. That didn't go very well. Again, we were working with someone that knew the business. And he said, this is the opportunity. This is kind of like, if you have these many trucks, I can open up all these doors. I know all these people. And then, so it turned out that none of these doors were open. All the doors were locked, apparently. We never got the deals we were supposed to get. And then after like 2 years, I think we had to shut it down. And in the trucking industry, it was very weird because it was really hit very, very hard. At one point, there was a high demand, and then after that, there was still a high demand, but then they wouldn't pay the rates that was needed. So it was very odd, and it didn't make sense for us to continue operating that trucking company. We're losing a ton of money every month. So yeah, so these are the things. And after all that, I'm telling you, if you don't know what business to start, real estate this is where you should start. You should start with real estate business. It's simple. Single family rental is even simpler. This is something that interests you. Flip system. If you don't know about investing out of state, if you don't have a team on the ground, that's why we created Flip System. So you join Flip System. We're going to walk you through everything. We're going to connect you with everybody that you need. And then, if you're not successful with Flip System, you're doing something wrong, or you're not working hard enough. But we're giving you everything there, and you have coaches that help you along the way. To me, that's the easiest way to get started in business. And then after that, if you want to do something else, yeah, go ahead.
Well, in the whole part for me, like, so my kids are still fairly young. My oldest is 17. But I've always had my kids involved in our business, and we're an open book. If we have a deal or a business that doesn't work out, our kids know about it. If we do something that works out really well, I'll sit down with closing statements and walk them through, how we structured the deal, what we did for profits.
Mm-hmm.
When you start, like you just mentioned, in real estate, even if that's not your end journey for the rest of your life, having a few houses is never going to hurt you
Yeah.
unless, as you said, you're doing something incredibly wrong or you're not working very hard. But I look back, it's been over 20 years since I started my original business in real estate. And I look back and think if I would have just kept a few more houses, if I, flipping houses is not really investing, in my opinion. It's a job. Wholesaling
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holding properties and cash flowing properties, having mailbox money, 20 years goes by very quickly. And when you start getting those houses that are free and clear, maybe they didn't make a whole lot of money for the first 20 years, but now they're free and clear. Wow, does that make a difference?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's when you start getting the time freedom and the true wealth freedom. So
Exactly. And this is what's important is that time freedom. Once you have your time, it's not like, as you mentioned, it's exactly right. I mean, this is not necessarily the end goal, but the number one thing that you should focus on is financial freedom. So that means you get your time back and then you can do whatever you want. You have like you're passionate about some business that doesn't make that much money, then you can do that. You have money coming in. If you want to invest your time in something that you're passionate about, that is more like a hobby or something like that, then you can do that. But until you do this, until you build a passive income portfolio that's going to pay your bill and let you live where you want to live, then it's going to be tough.
100%. And there's peaks and valleys in everything.
Yeah.
It's not ever easy. The process is simple, but taking action is not always easy.
Yeah.
So Eric, we'll kind of start winding down, but what's one question I should be asking you that I haven't?
Well, I would say, maybe people don't know why. I keep saying that financial freedom should be your number one goal. So some people are still asking me that, and why is that so important? I really love my job. You don't have to quit your job. I'm not asking you to quit your job, but I want people to think about kind of like, what if your job was not there? What if your job changed a certain way? Like, we had something with the pandemic, for example, like even doctors that thought they were untouchable or dentists, all of a sudden their practice was shut down for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. They still had to pay the bills, they still had to pay the rent and all that kind of stuff. So you have to think about that. And also, we all want to retire one time. We always want to, spend more time with family and friends and travel, all that kind of stuff. So you want to start planning. Your health is also not going to be necessarily at the top of your game for the rest of your life. But so that's why you have to start planning on that. And you want to retire as early as you can. So like you want to retire, you can retire like anytime, like you should want to retire now so that you're healthier now as opposed to waiting for your health to deteriorate or some other issues that come up. So
Well, and there's a big difference between having to work and wanting to work.
exactly.
And
Yeah, I mean, when I became financially free, I mean, that really changed I was doing a lot of independent consulting, and that completely changed my view, how I felt about going to work. And like I was just like, I'm really doing this because I'm coming here because I enjoy it. I enjoy working with these people. I enjoy working on these projects. And then when these projects winded down, then I just told my client, I said, okay, well, it seems like it's a good time for me to move out or move away and do something else and dedicate myself to real estate investing. So the time just happened to arrive at that point a few months later. But I'm glad I was able to do that. I was able to focus on things that I wanted to do, that I was passionate about.
and that's interesting because even like for myself, I've got some time freedom where people call me, reach out to me every week asking about deals and structuring deals. I'm passionate about creative deal structuring.
Mhm.
And I get to do these consulting projects because they're fun. And sometimes I get a little piece of the deal. Sometimes I just give people advice. It doesn't really matter. If I was stuck at a 9 to 5 or more likely a 7 to 5 type of job, I wouldn't have that. And so the time freedom is fantastic.
Yeah.
And honestly, just for you and I to be talking for 45 minutes in the middle of a day, many people can't even fathom how they would get the time to do that. So.
And for me too, like it's like I enjoy traveling, so I want to be able to, you know, travel and still check out how the work is doing. Like, you know, we have a big team now. We're close to like 40 employees working on the flip system side. So, you know, so it's kind of I have a solid team, so it's kind of nice to be able to travel, do some things, and then stay on top of things with our leadership team, and make sure that everything is doing the way it's supposed to. So.
Absolutely. Well, how can people find you? I'm pretty sure you've got some social media out there, right?
Yeah, so the best is Eric Martel Official. You can find that on all the normal like social media platform. You can also search on YouTube as well. So I have a channel there, Stop Trading Your Time for Money. That's under the same thing, Eric Martel Official. So yeah, that's the best way to reach out to me. I also have a personal website called marteleric.com. So you can check that out as well. Of course, flipsystem.com. So you have a link for that as well.
Yep, and we'll have links directly for that at thegenerationsofwealth.com/Eric Martel. So it'll be really easy for my audience to find you. Eric, I can't tell you. I mean, we had fun when I was on your show, and I knew today would be a great time. But I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on and sharing some wisdom.
Thank you, Derek. It was a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to wrap this show up. As always, everybody, please follow us, like us, share us, spread the word. Let's get the Generations of Wealth to be a household name, and go out and live your vision and love your life. See you on the next one.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful episode of Generations of Wealth. May your newfound knowledge help you in leveling up your own strategies to get through the many obstacles to your money-making processes and bring you much closer to the financially secure life you truly deserve. Continue filling up your accounts and further polish your financial tactics by listening to more episodes of the podcast at thegenerationsofwealth.com. Because in your wealth-building journey, there is no other way to go but up, giving you the chance to finally live your vision, love your life. That's all for now. See you on the next one.